You're watching Moms Matter. I'm your host, Shirin Yagar. In the studio with me today is Shahar, who is a diplomat and an author and an educator. We're really lucky to have you here with us today. I know I saw on Instagram that you were visiting to speak at UCLA, and I said, hey, can you come into the studio? And here you are. So thank you for being here.
I'm so excited. Always great to be on the Best Coast. And, speaking at UCLA, I think means a lot these days, to speak to the students, future generation, hopefully some faculty, spread the truth. That's what we're all about, right? Fighting for what's right, for what's just, playing our part in maintaining the most important things in our lives, which is honesty, decency, humanity. That's so lacking these days, Shirin.
100%, 100%. I know you've been fighting the good fight for a long time, and you've seen it all. I mean, you've worked all over the Middle East, right? Tell us a little bit about your background so we can understand where you're coming from.
So I think that, it's good to note that as an Israeli, having all of these experiences in our lives take us to different places. So for me, it's mainly my army service. When I served in the IDF, and it was the heydays of the Oslo Accords, shortly after the signing of the Declaration of Principles in 93 and 94. And it was then, Shirin, that Hamas, the terrorist Nazi organization, made its introduction into our lives. And by the way, to the world as well, in a series of suicide bombing attacks against innocent Israelis and bus stops, coffee shops, targeting the innocents. Before that, I'll never forget how in 1992, the entire state of Israel shook when a Palestinian terrorist was running down the street of the city of Bat Yam and stabbed the young Helena Rapp, a 15-year-old teenage girl, to death. She died in the attack. We were shocked to the core. Then Hamas escalates in 94, 95, 96, and beyond, and introduces the world, really, because what starts in Israel ends up reaching these shores. That's with right. Suicide attacks against innocent civilians. Dizengoff Street in Tel Aviv. I'll never forget that it was the first experience of the media. How do we cover this? What kind of an images can we bring out? This was our lives. We took the buses everywhere. These were our friends, and suddenly you count the dead not by 1 or 2, but by 10, 20, so many injured, the trauma. And now we're seeing another incredible escalation of this Nazi organization that killed in one day 1,400 people. Now, you look at those images and you see a family of 5. Tamar, who was running for the city council, her husband, her 2 twin girls, 6-year-olds, and her son, Omer, 4. And you see a beautiful family, and you're already broken. Like, had it happened with one family, had you seen one family butchered, massacred, killed, the tears wouldn't stop flowing. When I timed this by 1400, honestly, Shirin, I don't even know how to contain it. I can't even wrap my head around it. I get the chills thinking about the magnitude of evil, sheer evil that we have seen out there, which leads me to the very clear point, especially that I'm here in LA, but we've seen it in New York, we've seen it elsewhere, of people actually marching in support of this.
Explain this to me. Mr. Azani, I don't understand it. I have children on college campuses, and now, thank God, we have the phone. Everybody's seeing what's happening. Right. How is this translating on our soil? All over the world, this hate is being endorsed. Nobody's calling it out. They're endorsing it. They're proud of it. It's trendy.
It's trendy. First of all, I think it's a huge moral failure for our society that we have not been able to teach the next generation the differentiation between good and bad. People who are unable to look at evil and call it out for what it is. Equivocations. Israelis and Palestinians on both sides have to stop this. Or, media write-ups where after 11 days of war, thousands of Israelis and Palestinians have lost their lives. No, It's not after 11 days of war. It's after a day of butchery.
Yes.
Where these monstrosities, by the way, not militants, even terrorists is a mild word.
Yes.
Those monstrosities who marched into Israel, drugged, dosed, ready to maim and kill in the most cruelest of manners against the innocent women, elderly, toddlers, an unbelievable, unadulterated, ghoulish festival of hate. And anyone, Shirin, anyone who marches down US, European, or other streets in support of this, anyone who looks at decapitated babies and can look the other way and support Hamas for what they did, does not deserve to be called human.
No.
And needs to have our attention directed at them. Because a lot of them, I noticed, Shirin, get their faces covered.
Yes, they do.
Why?
Yes, they do.
Why do they cover their faces?
Great question.
What are you ashamed of? If you are standing up for something you believe in, feel free, so that your employer knows, your friend knows, the security services would know, your faculty knows. Everybody needs to know who you are. Because this is by far not one of those Israeli-Palestinian, tete-a-tete, Israeli-Palestinian rounds of war, Israeli-Palestinian political issues. Quite honestly, when you try to think if it's even possible rationally about what they did, or the goal, using our tools of rationalization, what were they trying to achieve? There is no possible win here for the Palestinian cause. None whatsoever. The only thing that they may have probably wanted to do and achieved, was the massacre of innocent Jews. Absolutely. Period. So I think that we're at a point, Shirin, where we need to be demanding accountability.
Yes.
There needs to be a consequence for any such support. Anybody who supports terrorists is a risk to our society.
Yes.
They need to be put on security lists, the no-fly lists. They need to be punished for their positions. I'm happy to see, first of all, huge failure for so many of the Ivy Leagues.
Yes.
Where the presidents, I'm not even talking about the masses who, using ignorance, useful idiocy, and virtue signaling, march down the street chanting things they don't even understand.
That is true.
But the leadership of those campuses, the presidents who might come out and say, like one of them did, there are so many tragedies around the world.
Unbelievable.
How can we, or others who said that it's too complex of an issue. If it's too complex of an issue, you're not doing your job.
Yes.
You're not supposed to be teaching my kids about life.
Right.
Because regardless of sciences and English and math, the basic human decency is missing from that equation. 100%. And that is an incredible wake-up call. Something has to change. I ask on every platform I go on, I have only one plea. Learn our lesson. If people tell you who they are, believe them.
Yes.
And if something is happening like this on US streets, where a member of Congress, Rashida Tlaib, is not even able to condemn the decapitation of babies, then that's a huge warning sign, because anybody who can do it is a potential perpetrator.
100%. Everything you're saying, I don't think anybody could argue with you. No one can argue with you. The question is now, how do we arm ourselves to approach this? We are parents. We are mothers. Our children are not safe on these campuses. We write letters to the presidents. We call their offices. Nothing happens. They should not allow for this type of hate speech.
Correct.
Under a First Amendment right. Correct. So how do we take action to not allow this? Is terrorism on campuses.
This is, and I have to tell you exactly what you're saying, Shirin, and it shouldn't be said with any frustration, because what you're saying is incredible. You're talking about mobilization. You're talking about call to action. We saw the letter that came out from the president of the University of Florida.
Yes.
Unequivocal condemnation, not just condemnation to the beasts, the monstrosities of Hamas, Nazi terrorists, but also, and that was a very important statement, standing by our Jewish kids who feel threatened. That did not come out of UCLA. That did not come out of many campuses. Just the idea that the Middle East touches so many lives. No, but the people who are at risk, the kids out there who are feeling that danger, that brunt of threat, it's our kids, just as you say. So, demand action, create a critical mass, come on your platform. Let's come together, because one voice, two voices, three voices, 10,000 voices, this will make a difference. When people feel that this really matters, when the opinion leaders feel that things really matter, when Mark Rowan decides to donate $1 a year to UPenn as a statement, that's action. That's what needs to be done. Absolutely. And I think we can no longer look away, tolerate, because we've been tolerating this for many years.
Yes, we have.
We've had the issues with Hamas for many years. Yes. And it's always been like a political discussion, and we've always kind of like brushed it off, the university's, complacency or silence. And we said, people are not that bad. You know what? We did it in Israel. We made that mistake. We felt that if we only allow Hamas the ability to breathe, we know their ideologies, we know they say they hate us, but if we only give them sustainability, if we only allow for the Qatar money to come into the Gaza Strip, if we only allow thousands and tens of thousands of Gazan workers to come into Israel and work and bring back livelihoods to the Gaza Strip so that they have hope, then maybe their ideology will be contained because it's kind of like a must for them, but nothing more will happen because everybody is, think about this rationally. They want to govern, they want to live, they wouldn't want the misery in Gaza, which might result. Now we find out, Shirin, that on some of these monstrosities corpses in the south, by the way, 2,900 of them penetrated Israel on that Saturday morning. 2,900. There were work permits. These are people who came into Israel, looked around, mapped out the settlements, the towns, the villages, the families, up to a point where, according to some reports, they were indicating who lives in each house, how many kids, how many elderly, whether there is a dog or not. You saw they were shooting dogs as well. I mean, they have weaponized our benevolence. They have weaponized our humanity. And now they will see our wrath through resilience and through unity, not just within the state of Israel, but also out here with everybody who is listening and watching to us at this very moment, who will heed the call of quiet no more. No more are we going to sit on our couches, complain, moan, and move on. Like you say, it's not that difficult. Spend half an hour a day. Send those emails. Make those comments. Don't share the evil. Don't help them with sharing the evil. But reach out to the editor of the LA Times. When they get 100,000 emails or letters, they'll start thinking about what they do. Because if you keep quiet, you just let them assume that we don't care. And by God, we do. And by God, we will. As of now on, for Israel and the Jewish people of October 6 are no more.
You are such a strong voice. We need you on every campus across this country, across this world, really.
It's the voice of truth. What am I saying? That's not a given. That's not a given. It's commonsensical standing by humanity and justice. We're facing sheer evil. I read reports this morning, Shirin, about those drugs used by Hamas Nazi monstrosities. Apparently, they drugged themselves in order to be able to execute more and more quickly. And when I say drug yourself, I mean reach a point when Arik and Ruth Peretz, Arik Peretz, a father, Ruth Peretz, a 16-year-old girl with cerebral palsy, on her wheelchair, were right there at the peace party in Reim. They found the wheelchair days ago. They weren't sure what happened. According to reports, Arik was carrying his daughter. He took her everywhere. He gave her life. He gave her music. He gave her joy. She was alive with and through him. There was unbelievable purity in that relationship. And yesterday, their bodies were found. So the assumption at the beginning was that they were hostages. These are the lives lost. These are the people, the Kotz family. I was speaking about them on some of my interviews. They were buried a couple of days ago. The Kotz family, 2 parents, 2 teen boys, basketball players, 1 teen girl. And what they used to do, Shirin, they used to go every Saturday to the fence with Gaza for a kite festival. They used to fly kites and balloons to promote neighborly relations and peace. Without going through the gory details, they were found on their bed. Of course, I can't, but Aviv, the father of the family, was hovering over them, hugging them. And that was how they left this earth. This is what we're dealing with. And when I speak out, when I go out there, and by the way, exactly like I used to do in the 90s and in the second Intifada, there are faces before me. The blood of my brothers and sisters are crying out from the earth, and they're echoing their pain through me and through all of us who are voices of humanity and dignity. The people who are here to make sure that our conscience will not be quiet until we get the job done. And not just for the sake of Israel. This is a battle for humanity.
100%.
This is like, we have to eradicate this evil from our midst. It's simply inconceivable, unfathomable that in this time and age, in 2023, we're still using the terms of raping, pillaging, slaughtering, butchering, massacring, and don't tell me militants.
It's not militant. It's called terrorism. And the AP needs to change immediately and call things out because journalism is failing us. Mainstream media is not giving us the facts. What's really disturbing is that everything you're saying is so disturbing. It's so barbaric. It's so inhumane. Yet all of these very intelligent, young American minds believe that they are marching for freedom fighters. They truly believe it. They don't want to hear the real narrative. They're not getting it. How do we help get this information out to them? How do we help them open their minds to humanity?
And to thinking that, it's fashionable, right? I'll never forget how a few years ago, I think it was John Legend on the Bill Maher show right here in LA. And we had, similar issue, not similar. I'm sorry, there is nothing similar to what I just want to make that clear again. We are on a different platform now. It's nothing similar. But the Israeli-Palestinian issue came up. And I think during that show, John Legend denounced, Israel. It says it's time for us as Americans to stand by the Palestinian cause. And one of the panelists asked the John Legend, he said, I just want to ask you, I understand what you just said, but what do you want to say about the death squads in Venezuela, which are killing at this very minute hundreds of civilians on the streets? And he was very sincere in saying, the truth is, I don't know anything about the death squads of Venezuela, but we hear a lot about the Israeli-Palestinian issue. That was such a telling sentence. We hear a lot about, it's fashionable. If I, garnish myself with this, if I just say those words, if I use the words like, blockade, it makes me sound so smart. So anybody who thinks that it makes you sound smart, please watch AOC's interview on CNN, just a 3-minute clip. Just remember this, when you watch it, this is what you sound like when you speak. On a job interview, speaking with people, this is what you sound like. So as President Biden said, don't. Don't. Be human beings. Because remember, when I see signs of queers for Palestine, there is such a gap of understanding who we're dealing with here, and also the realization that we are just a small Satan. Israel is a symbol. You know what it symbolizes? This. The freedom of speech, our societies, our Western democracies, our values. Don't be useful idiots in the hands of a horrendous monstrosity that seeks to destroy us all and our very humanity. And if this is who and what you stand for, then you don't belong in our society. Again, you're not human if this is who you stand with.
Mr. Azani, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for always standing strong. And I know you have perspective. You have seen it all. You understand it. And for anyone who wants to reach out to you, to get your help, to have you come and speak at their campuses, how can they reach you? How can they find you?
First of all, thank you, Shirin. Thank you for making your voice heard. That's what I'm doing. That's what all of us should be doing. We should make our voices heard. Speak up. Write. Email. Make your point. You know what? I find myself arguing with anybody I see. It's like I go and I mention and I talk to people, and it's incredible to see, first of all, people's thirst to know. So you be that source of power. You be that source of education. You educate yourself, not on the monstrosities with the gory details that Hamas is trying to make you watch to deflate and de-energize and demoralize you. But know this, that by standing along the people of Israel at this time, you are supporting your children. You are supporting your family. You are supporting your country. You stand by humanity and justice. It is a fight of evil versus good. It is a fight of light versus barbarism. Just know that you are on the right side of history, that our society today shall forever be judged retrospectively of where did you stand on October 7th, with the beheading of babies or with the reproduction of babies to a much better, just society. So make your voice heard. I'm as available as can be on social media. Reach out to me. I enjoy speaking with people, giving them the message, strengthening people. There is a power grid of light. Don't ever forget that we outnumber the bad guys. Even if sometimes we think that they outnumber us, the problem is that the majority of us is silent. Be silent no more. And a major message I want to give today is, if somebody is doing something right, if a celebrity is doing something right. I heard that Floyd Mayweather flew his private jet to Israel with supplies and donations. One of the basic foundations of Judaism is the ability to hakarat hatuv, say thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate. So appreciate.
Yes.
Go on their social media outlets. Say thank you for what you did. It doesn't mean you agree with everything every person did ever. But if somebody did something right, support them.
Yes.
Be there for them.
Yes.
Again, that's part of making our voices heard. So I'm excited to be able to do this today because we are at a critical time for humanity, and this is the time to make our voices heard. And you, Shirin, are a huge part of it for doing this today and for inspiring so many people who are listening and viewing us now to do the right thing. And the most important thing is to do, not to just complain, to do.
Yes.
Reach out to elected officials, reach out to the media, reach out to thought leadership, demand accountability, consequences, and make sure to remember that this is a long-term battle to retain our humanity, and we will win this because we have no other choice.
Yes, we will. And like you said a moment ago, this is not about Israel. This is about civilization.
Yep.
And if you let it peer in, they will be knocking on your doorstep.
Exactly.
And they will be heading your children.
Exactly.
And that's what's coming next if we don't stand for humanity.
We don't stand for humanity, because
100%.
Israel is just the first bastion of that humanity, and we will not fall.
No.
But make sure to learn from our mistake. We tend to see people through our eyes. If we assume, if we're benevolent, we assume benevolence. And one of the major lessons that we have learned on October 7th is that that's not the case.
No, that's not. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Stay strong. Keep fighting the good fight.
And thank you for having me.
My pleasure. You saw it all here on Moms Matter. Stay strong, advocate, be resilient, and we'll see you next time.